She just brings so much passion to the game, and look at all these people that just want to come and see her.
They went the extra mile just to watch her play here.
This is great news for women's basketball.
Caitlin Clark just did the impossible again. She's taken the Indiana Fever from barely noticed to America's #1 basketball team.
Whether you like the Indiana Fever or not, whether you like Caitlin Clark or not, it has gotten to the point where we can no longer deny the fact that they are the biggest draw in the WNBA, and they proved that all of last season.
Critics are furious, rival teams are scrambling, and even arenas are changing locations just to keep up with her unstoppable popularity. But here's the crazy part. It's not just hype, it's reality. The numbers don't lie, and today you'll see exactly how Caitlin Clark single-handedly changed the WNBA forever, made history again, and why the entire basketball world is talking about nothing else. You're going to find out exactly how this happened, and trust me, the details will shock you. Let's rewind a bit, because the story of how Caitlin Clark transformed the Indiana Fever into America's most popular basketball team didn't happen overnight. Just a few years ago, the Indiana Fever was a struggling WNBA franchise. They weren't just losing games, they were losing fans. Attendance was low, television coverage was almost non-existent, and the team had little presence in mainstream sports conversations. The Fever was close to irrelevant in women's basketball, but then something remarkable happened. In one single moment, the Indiana Fever went from a forgotten team to the talk of the sports world.
If I was the WNBA, I would have considered a separate television package to a network on just Caitlin Clark games. I would have had two packages, the WNBA package, and then a separate, let's say, 15 to 18 game Caitlin Clark package.
And that moment was the drafting of Caitlin Clark. But why did one player make such a dramatic difference? Here's the truth. Caitlin Clark didn't just bring talent, she brought something the WNBA desperately needed: star power. From her first step onto the professional court, Clark dominated in ways fans had never seen before.
The league wasn't ready for her last year. They just weren't prepared. Yeah. She was prepared.
She's had a full offseason now to rest.
No. She's going to be great. The league just didn't know what to do.
Get the MVP tickets in, just bet them to win the championship. It's fun. And then you get to watch all her games.
Her scoring was electric, her playmaking jaw-dropping, and her competitive edge unmatched. But it wasn't just what she did during games. It was how she did it. Every three-pointer, every incredible assist, every impossible play made fans jump out of their seats and instantly go viral online. Therefore, fans started coming out in record numbers to watch the spectacle. Attendance at Fever home games exploded, with an increase of 39% from the previous season.
The Liberty and Aces, they're going to clash here 3 times. All 3 of those are on ABC and ESPN. The Fever and the Sky, they meet 5 times. Caitlin Clark, the revamped Fever, they look to build on their success.
There have been 6 teams that have changed venues when the Indiana Fever come to play. All of these arenas are selling out.
Arenas that were once half empty became packed houses. However, the Caitlin Clark effect wasn't limited to Indiana alone. Soon, her fame started to spread nationwide. Fans from all across America began tuning into Fever games, causing television ratings to skyrocket. Before Caitlin Clark, regular season WNBA games rarely surpassed 500,000 viewers. But with Clark on the court, even regular season games were breaking 1 million viewers consistently. Therefore, networks like ABC, ESPN, CBS, and Prime Video rushed to capitalize on her popularity, scheduling 41 of the Fever's 44 games for national television, more than any other WNBA team in history, including previous champions.
Broadcast this season, ooh-wee, big-time doubleheader. Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, they meet in the season opener.
Indiana Fever put this out, all eyes on us.
With such star power on those teams, it's really no surprise they're atop the list for the most games available for you to check out on a national scale.
Caitlin Clark once again dominates WNBA national TV schedule.
The Fever, they lead the league with 41 games here, followed by the Aces 33, the champion Liberty at 32.
41 of our 44 games are on national television, the most television games in franchise history, the most national television games for a single team in WNBA history. I'm sure this is because of Angel Reese.
But here's the interesting twist. Caitlin Clark didn't just boost the Indiana Fever, her popularity lifted the entire league. Other WNBA teams quickly realized the financial benefit of hosting games against the Fever. Therefore, franchises started shifting their home games to bigger NBA-sized arenas whenever Clark was coming to town. For example, the Chicago Sky moved games to the United Center, home of the Bulls.
You all do not know, the Chicago Sky made the move to transfer 2 of their games to the United Center. Normally, the Chicago Sky play at Wintrust Arena, which holds around 10,000 seats. They are now going to be having their games against the Indiana Fever, similar to other teams in the W. They are moving the game to a bigger arena, right? And the United Center is where the Chicago Bulls play. If you don't know, the capacity for United Center is around 23,000 people who can be in attendance. So we're going from 10,000 roughly fans, and we are now moving into a 20-plus venue.
And the Atlanta Dream relocated their matchup to State Farm Arena, home of the Hawks. These weren't small adjustments. They were dramatic moves solely because fans were desperate to see Caitlin Clark live.
Who are you guys excited to see tonight?
Yay! Caitlin Clark!
However, as the Fever's popularity soared, not everyone was celebrating. Rival teams and their fans were furious. Critics started claiming that Clark was overhyped, that the WNBA was unfairly promoting her, and that other teams deserved equal attention.
I could actually argue that it hurts the game more if they had given her a roster spot over someone more deserving.
So go ahead and argue.
That's exactly what I'm saying, because I think it makes a mockery of the women's game. If the focus on, now we just have to have people because of marketing and their intention, and they're not as talented, and we're not putting the best team out there.
Angel Reese fans in particular became increasingly vocal, accusing the league of favoritism and bias.
This one blew up. I don't know who this person is, but they said all Caitlin Clark has done is be white.
A lot of people who aren't fans of the Indiana Fever or don't want to see this happening, they're mad about it, but they're also not realizing that all of the other teams will also be on national TV.
But here's the thing, television networks aren't concerned about fairness or hurt feelings. Their priority is simple, ratings and money.
These networks are not thinking about hurting feelings. These networks are thinking about how much money can we bring in.
And Caitlin Clark was delivering both in historic amounts. Therefore, any criticism aimed at Clark or the Fever quickly fell flat because the numbers spoke for themselves. Caitlin Clark's jersey sales alone were greater than the entire rest of the league combined. Her presence had led to the highest average attendance in WNBA history, with a 48% increase league-wide in just 1 year.
With everyone trying to diminish the wave that was happening, the Clarkonomics that were happening, the Caitlin Clark effect that was happening, and realizing it is not only going to be good for this Indiana Fever team, it's going to be great for everyone. It's going to be great for every single player in the WNBA and also every single team in the WNBA.
Therefore, no matter how much critics complained, the reality remained clear. Caitlin Clark was not only the most valuable player in the league, she was the lifeline keeping a women's basketball thriving. But the controversy continued. Rivalries, both real and manufactured, added fuel to the fire. The most notable was between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, a drama amplified by media coverage and fan reactions.
Sigh, I missed the Unrivaled already. They're mad. Caitlin Clark didn't play in that league. They want her out. They want you fans out of the league.
Angel Wilson's talking about sitting out for more money. Meanwhile, the Indiana Fever, hey, we're putting every game on TV for Caitlin Clark. Everybody wants to watch her.
This is the year that they want to do whatever they possibly can to show that they deserve more and also be profitable.
One of the worst WNBA fans and one of CC's biggest haters is already complaining. They don't like the game of basketball at all. They just want to support Reese. I've said the majority of her fans are not Hoops fans.
Angel Reese, known for being outspoken and often controversial, seemed determined to position herself as Clark's antagonist, regularly taking jabs on social media or in interviews. While Clark chose to remain focused on basketball, the media eagerly hyped every clash between these two stars, therefore turning simple basketball games into high-stakes, must-watch events.
more people are getting on board. More people are watching women's basketball. More people are watching women's college basketball. Do not slow the momentum because of ego.
Caitlin Clark draws massive viewership and other teams don't. Caitlin Clark averaged about 1.2 million viewers per game, and the rest of the league about 400 to 500,000.
However, while Angel Reese was generating headlines for her off-court drama, Clark remained laser-focused on the court. In head-to-head matchups, Clark consistently outperformed Reese, silencing critics who claimed she was merely a product of media hype. The narrative around Clark began shifting from questioning her legitimacy to acknowledging her greatness. But this shift wasn't universally accepted. Some fans and even players stubbornly refused to acknowledge Clark's unprecedented impact.
Give me Angel Reese, give me Caitlin Clark, because this has been box office, y'all. The young guns, the young stars have come to play. Angel at unrivaled training with Lisa, Leslie, and Caitlin. We all know that girl. She lives, breathes, eats, sleeps in the gym. So I am so excited to see that matchup, those two, because anytime they go up against each other, honestly, the whole world shuts down.
Yep.
Everything shuts down.
Yep.
They argued the Fever's popularity was temporary and claimed Clark was a media-created star. Therefore, some rival players even threatened to boycott games or sit out the season, demanding more money, claiming they deserved higher pay than Clark, who they labeled as unfairly elevated.
Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever schedule has come out. We now know how many national games they got. The Indiana Fever is America's team, but the old WNBA fans are furious over it. They're mad. They're crying.
But the irony here was staggering. Players like Angel Reese and Nneka Ogwumike were only able to demand more money precisely because Clark had raised the league's overall revenue.
The WNBA Draft and All-Star Game demolished their viewership records with Caitlin Clark. The Diana Taurasi draft drew 600,000. It was the most watched draft ever. Caitlin Clark's draft drew nearly 2.5 million. 374% increase of viewership. Fever quadrupled ticket sales after drafting Clark. Washington and Indiana set the single game attendance record of 20,711 on September 19 Capital One Arena. The WNBA's average attendance last year was 9,807 fans, up 48%. And keep in mind, that was really one person that added those 3,000 fans on average.
The financial reality was undeniable. Caitlin Clark's popularity increased ticket sales, drove massive TV ratings, and resulted in lucrative sponsorship deals across the entire WNBA. Therefore, even her critics were benefiting financially from her success. Still, the backlash persisted, often taking on uncomfortable racial undertones, especially around Clark's rivalry with Reese. A recent study highlighted how media reactions differed dramatically when comparing Clark's behavior to Reese's. Clark was generally celebrated, while Reese was harshly criticized, sparking national discussions around race and gender biases in sports. But even amid this controversy, the facts remained clear. Clark herself had repeatedly supported Reese, openly condemning any unfair criticism and calling for equal treatment for all athletes.
I don't think Angel should be criticized at all. No matter which way it goes, she should never be criticized for what she did. I think everybody knew there was going to be a little trash talk in the entire tournament. It's not just me and Angel. So, like I said, I'm a big fan of hers.
Her actions demonstrated maturity and leadership beyond her years, further solidifying her role as the WNBA's premier figure. Therefore, the criticism began losing its power. Every negative narrative eventually collapsed under the sheer weight of undeniable success. Television networks, advertisers, arenas, all continued pouring resources into Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, recognizing the undeniable financial and cultural power she held. Even athletes from other sports, NBA legends, and prominent sports analysts like Stephen A. Smith started publicly endorsing Clark, recognizing her once-in-a-generation talent.
I didn't mention it in my cold open, but I'm going to mention it now, and that's Caitlin Clark herself of the WNBA. Let's get to the WNBA and this sensational rookie from the Indiana Fever who continues to be box office. Clark and the Fever currently lead the WNBA in average game attendance and per game TV viewership. But despite the attendance and viewership records, there seems to be some haterade in the league.
By this point, Caitlin Clark's impact was no longer limited to basketball alone. She had become a cultural icon. Her presence on the court meant packed arenas, record-breaking television viewership, massive merchandise sales, and increased salaries across the WNBA. Even rival teams were forced to admit, whether grudgingly or enthusiastically, that the entire league was healthier and wealthier because of her. But the question remained, was this sustainable? Could one player's popularity truly transform an entire league permanently? Or was this just a temporary surge that would fade if Clark ever slowed down or got injured?
WNBA's attendance had a record-breaking high in 20 years with a total of 2.3 million fans attending games. You know what the increase was from 2024 to 2023 in attendance? 48%. That's massive. That's the Caitlin Clark effect.
Phenomenon, yeah.
If Caitlin Clark gets injured, it's over with. Tom.
Every single one of you WNBA players, you better pray that Caitlin Clark doesn't get injured, because she's keeping your league afloat.
Skeptics constantly raised these doubts, arguing that the WNBA was dangerously dependent on Clark's continued success. Therefore, they claimed the league was playing a risky game by putting so much weight on one young athlete's shoulders. However, Caitlin Clark showed no signs of slowing. Every season, she returned stronger, more focused, and even more popular. Her performance continued to break records, defying expectations and silencing doubts. Her work ethic became legendary, her leadership unquestionable, and her impact undeniable. Therefore, rather than fading, her star power seemed to increase exponentially with each passing day. And that's exactly why the WNBA embraced her so fully. Because while critics worried about dependency, the league recognized something more important: opportunity. Caitlin Clark had given the WNBA a chance to become mainstream, to finally compete on equal footing with men's sports, and to secure a future of unprecedented financial stability. But this wasn't the end of the story. This was only the beginning of a new era. The full implications of Clark's dominance, her rivalries, and her impact on sports culture were yet to be fully understood. Because even as she broke record after record, the most fascinating part of Caitlin Clark's story wasn't what she had already done. It was what she might still do next. Therefore, the question fans were asking wasn't if Clark could keep going, but rather how much bigger could the Caitlin Clark phenomenon possibly get? Remember how we started this video? Caitlin Clark just did the impossible again, elevating the Indiana Fever from obscurity to America's #1 basketball team. But what does that actually look like in reality? Here's the payoff you've been waiting for. This season alone, the Indiana Fever shattered all expectations by securing an unprecedented 41 national television games, more than any other WNBA team in history, including past champions like the Las Vegas Aces and the New York Liberty. But here's the shocking truth. Networks weren't just handing them airtime because they liked Caitlin Clark. They did it because of one simple reason: viewership numbers were through the roof. Regular season Fever games drew audiences bigger than even the WNBA Finals. We're talking over 2 million viewers tuning in to watch Clark dominate, something unheard of before she stepped onto the court. Therefore, Clark didn't just make history, she completely reshaped how women's basketball is seen in America. Previously, unthinkable attendance records were now routine. Games once played in small arenas were upgraded to iconic NBA venues such as the United Center and TD Garden filled to capacity. Even her merchandise sales became historic, with her jersey outselling all other players combined across all sports. This wasn't just star power, it was a cultural revolution happening in real time. But despite this undeniable success, rivalries still flared, especially her controversial matchups with Angel Reese. Yet, every time critics tried to diminish Clark's impact, they only fueled her popularity further. Fans rallied around her, inspired by her determination, talent, and genuine passion for the game. Therefore, instead of weakening her position, every attack only cemented Caitlin Clark's legacy even deeper into the fabric of American sports. And here's why this matters far beyond basketball. Clark's rise isn't just good news for Indiana, it's great news for the entire WNBA. For years, women's basketball fought for relevance, fighting uphill battles for TV coverage, fair pay, and respect. But because of Caitlin Clark, those battles suddenly felt winnable. More viewers meant higher revenue meant higher salaries, and higher salaries meant a healthier league for everyone involved. Players like Angel Reese, Nneka Ogwumike, and others demanding better pay were now standing on ground made possible by Clark herself. But now, we're left with one fascinating question that nobody can answer yet. What comes next? As of today, the Indiana Fever are officially America's #1 basketball team, drawing bigger audiences than many NBA teams. But is this sustainable long-term? Can Caitlin Clark keep breaking records at this astonishing pace? Or will her impact eventually reach a peak, forcing the WNBA to adapt once again? Therefore, while we celebrate Caitlin Clark's historic achievements today, we also have to wonder, could this unprecedented success eventually create challenges down the line? And how will the league respond if it ever has to face life after Clark? One thing's for sure, as long as Caitlin Clark is on the court, all eyes will remain fixed firmly on her every move. So tell us, do you believe the WNBA is now permanently changed because of Caitlin Clark? Or is this success temporary and unsustainable? Let us know what you think in the comments, because this story is far from over, and trust us, what happens next might be even more surprising than you expect.